Stop planting hydrangeas incorrectly. If your shrubs look weak, if the blooms are small or missing, or if your plants never resemble the lush ones you see in magazines, there's a good chance the problem isn't the plant itself. It's the way it was planted. On one side, you might see a hydrangea that appears dull, thin, and struggling. On the other side, the same variety can be overflowing with rich color and large, vibrant blooms. The difference isn't luck, and it isn't simply the weather. It usually comes down to proper planting. Every year, countless gardeners repeat the same common mistakes when planting hydrangeas, and those mistakes lead to years of disappointing results. The good news is that once you recognize these errors and learn how to avoid them, your hydrangeas can flourish just like the healthy, thriving plants you admire. In this video, I'll walk you through the 5 most common and damaging mistakes people make with hydrangeas, and I'll show you exactly how to correct them so you can enjoy large, beautiful blooms year after year. The first mistake many gardeners make is planting hydrangeas in the wrong location. Hydrangeas are quite particular about light, and they struggle when exposed to extreme conditions. Too much direct sunlight, especially intense afternoon sun, can burn their leaves, fade their blooms, and stress the entire plant. But planting them in too much shade creates another problem: weak, stretched growth and very few flowers. Many people assume hydrangeas will adapt to any spot in the yard, but location plays a crucial role in their success. The ideal setting provides gentle morning sunlight followed by shade in the afternoon. This balance gives the plant enough light to produce abundant blooms while shielding it from the harsh heat of midday. Planting hydrangeas beneath large trees might seem helpful, but tree roots often compete aggressively for water and nutrients, leaving the hydrangea struggling to survive. At the same time, placing them in wide-open beds without protection from the afternoon sun can be just as harmful. In nature, hydrangeas grow along woodland edges where they receive filtered light, steady moisture, and natural shelter. When you recreate these conditions in your garden, hydrangeas respond with lush growth and stunning flowers season after season. The second mistake involves digging the wrong kind of planting hole. Although it might seem like a minor detail, it can greatly affect the long-term health of your plant. Many gardeners dig holes that are either too deep or too narrow. When the hole is too deep, the crown of the plant ends up buried below the soil surface, which can cause rot, restrict oxygen to the roots, and gradually weaken the plant. On the other hand, a hole that's too narrow prevents the roots from spreading and establishing a strong base. Hydrangeas need plenty of room underground to expand and anchor themselves properly. The correct approach is to dig a hole that is about twice as wide as the root ball, but no deeper than its height. This wide, shallow space encourages the roots to grow outward, which is how hydrangeas naturally develop in the soil. Another frequent mistake is planting the hydrangea without loosening the roots first. Plants grown in containers often develop tightly circling roots inside the pot. If you place them in the ground without loosening those roots, they may continue growing in circles, eventually restricting themselves and weakening the plant. Gently loosening the roots or lightly scoring the root ball in a few places helps them break free and grow outward into the surrounding soil. This simple step can make a huge difference in the plant's health years later, yet it's one that many gardeners overlook. The third mistake many gardeners make is planting hydrangeas in soil that hasn't been properly prepared. While hydrangeas are not extremely demanding plants, they do perform best under certain soil conditions. They prefer rich, well-drained soil that can retain moisture without becoming overly saturated. Unfortunately, many people plant them straight into dense clay soil or loose, sandy soil without improving it first. In heavy clay, water tends to collect around the roots, creating a soggy environment with very little oxygen. Over time, this can suffocate the roots and weaken the plant. Sandy soil creates the opposite issue. Water drains away too quickly, leaving the roots dry and stressed. In both situations, the plant gradually declines. The ideal soil for hydrangeas is loose, fertile, and packed with organic matter. Adding compost, leaf mold, or well-decomposed manure to the planting area helps create the perfect balance. These materials improve soil structure, boost nutrients, and allow the soil to hold just the right amount of moisture while still draining well. Another factor gardeners often overlook is soil pH. Many people are aware that soil acidity affects the color of hydrangea flowers. Acidic soil encourages blue blooms, while more alkaline soil results in pink flowers. But pH influences more than just color. It also determines how easily the plant can absorb essential nutrients from the soil. If the pH is too far out of balance, the plant may struggle to take in nutrients even if fertilizer is added. Testing and adjusting your soil before planting can make a long-term difference, especially since hydrangeas can live and bloom for many years when planted in the right conditions. The fourth mistake involves improper watering during the early establishment stage. Hydrangeas are famous for their love of moisture. In fact, the name hydrangea roughly translates to water vessel. Despite this, both overwatering and underwatering frequently cause problems. After planting, hydrangeas need consistent, deep watering to help their roots settle and spread into the surrounding soil. A common mistake gardeners make is giving small, frequent splashes of water that only dampen the surface. This leads to shallow root development, which makes the plant far more vulnerable to drought and heat. On the other hand, soaking the plant too often can leave the soil constantly waterlogged, increasing the risk of root rot. The best approach is deep watering once or twice a week, depending on the climate and weather conditions. This allows moisture to reach the root zone where it's truly needed. Another crucial step that many gardeners forget is mulching. A layer of mulch around the base of the plant helps lock moisture into the soil, keeps the roots cooler during hot weather, and reduces weed growth. Applying a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch, such as shredded bark, wood chips, or compost, creates a more stable environment for the plant. Without mulch, soil tends to dry out much faster, putting additional stress on the hydrangea. If you compare a thriving hydrangea with a struggling one, you'll often notice small details like this. The healthier plant typically has a clean mulch ring, while the weaker one sits in bare, exposed soil. Small details like these might seem insignificant at first, but over time they make a tremendous difference in the plant's health and performance. The fifth mistake, and often the most disappointing one, is pruning hydrangeas incorrectly. Many gardeners enthusiastically trim their shrubs in fall or early spring, thinking they're helping the plant stay neat and healthy. Unfortunately, this is exactly how countless flower buds get accidentally removed. The key issue is that different types of hydrangeas bloom on different kinds of growth, and failing to understand this detail can leave a plant flowerless for years. For instance, big leaf hydrangeas usually bloom on what's known as old wood. This means they form their flower buds in late summer for the following year's blooms. If those stems are cut back in autumn or spring, the buds are removed before they ever have a chance to open. In contrast, varieties like panicle and smooth hydrangeas bloom on new wood, meaning they produce flowers on fresh growth that develops during the current season. These types can handle more flexible pruning without losing their blooms. The problem arises when gardeners treat every hydrangea the same and give them a heavy trim at the wrong time of year. Another common mistake is cutting the plant back too severely in hopes of rejuvenating it. In reality, excessive pruning often weakens the shrub rather than helping it. Most hydrangeas only need gentle maintenance, a light shaping, and the removal of dead or crossing branches. Once you understand which variety you're growing and how it produces flowers, maintaining those spectacular blooms year after year becomes much easier. Beyond these major mistakes, there are also several additional tips that experienced gardeners rely on. These small details might not seem crucial at first, but they can elevate an ordinary hydrangea into a truly spectacular plant. One of the most valuable lessons seasoned gardeners share is the importance of acclimating hydrangeas before planting them directly in the ground. Plants purchased from garden centers are often grown in carefully controlled environments with ideal watering and protective shade structures. If that plant is suddenly placed into full sun and unfamiliar soil, the shock from the abrupt change in light, temperature, and moisture conditions can severely stress it. Experienced growers gradually harden off their hydrangeas. They place the plant outdoors in dappled shade for a few hours each day and slowly extend that time over about a week. By the time the shrub is planted in the garden, it is already adjusted to outdoor conditions and experiences far less transplant stress. This simple step may require patience, but it often determines whether a plant struggles or thrives. Another professional insight involves the timing of planting. Many beginners assume hydrangeas can be planted whenever convenient, but experienced gardeners know timing plays an important role. The ideal planting periods are early spring, before the intense summer heat arrives, or early fall when the soil is still warm, but the air temperatures have cooled. Planting during the peak of summer forces a newly planted shrub to cope with heat stress and frequent watering before its roots have fully developed. In contrast, spring and fall offer gentler conditions that allow the roots to establish themselves more comfortably. Choosing the right season can mean the difference between a hydrangea that struggles through its first year and one that quickly grows into a vigorous, flowering shrub. Seasoned gardeners also recognize that root competition can quietly undermine hydrangea growth. Beginners often plant them beneath large trees or next to thirsty shrubs without realizing how much those neighboring plants compete for water and nutrients. Tree roots in particular can dominate the soil, leaving hydrangeas with little access to the moisture they need. Professionals usually select planting sites where hydrangeas can grow without competition, or they prepare raised beds and improved planting areas that give the shrub enough space to establish itself properly. Although this battle happens underground and out of sight, the results become obvious in the plant's overall health. Another advanced tip involves deadheading, the removal of spent flowers. Many beginners remove old blooms frequently, assuming it will trigger more flowers during the same season. However, experienced gardeners understand that with hydrangeas, deadheading is more about directing the plant's energy than increasing the immediate number of blooms. By carefully cutting faded flowers just above a healthy pair of leaves, the plant redirects its resources towards strengthening its stems and roots. Precision is important here. Cutting too deeply or too aggressively may remove buds that would produce flowers the following year. Skilled gardeners approach deadheading with the same care as pruning, always thinking ahead to future growth. Fertilizer timing is another area where experienced gardeners approach things differently. Beginners often add fertilizer whenever the plant appears tired or slow to grow. Experts, however, know that feeding hydrangeas too late in the season can cause serious problems. Nitrogen-heavy fertilizer applied late in summer encourages soft, new growth at a time when the plant should be preparing for dormancy. When cold weather arrives, that tender growth is easily damaged by frost, leaving the plant weaker the following spring. Experienced growers typically stop fertilizing by midsummer, allowing the shrub to gradually slow its growth and prepare naturally for winter. This simple adjustment protects next year's flowers and keeps the plant strong. Finally, one of the most overlooked secrets to successful hydrangea growing is winter protection. Many gardeners assume their shrubs will simply endure cold weather on their own, but professionals understand that protecting the flower buds through winter is essential, especially for varieties that bloom on old wood. Basic measures such as applying a thick layer of mulch around the base, wrapping the shrub with burlap, or covering the crown with fallen leaves can protect delicate buds from freezing temperatures. These simple precautions can determine whether a hydrangea bursts into bloom in spring or produces only bare stems. When you look back at the comparison between a struggling hydrangea and a thriving one, it becomes clear that success rarely comes down to luck. Instead, it comes from understanding the plant's needs and avoiding the most common mistakes. Choosing the right planting location, preparing the soil properly, digging the correct hole, watering deeply, and pruning at the right time all contribute to long-term success. Hydrangeas may have a reputation for being fussy, but in reality they simply respond to thoughtful care. When gardeners work with their natural preferences rather than against them, hydrangeas reward that effort with some of the most beautiful flowers in the garden. If your hydrangeas haven't been performing well, don't lose heart. Almost every gardener has made at least one of these mistakes, myself included. The important thing is that once you recognize the problem, it's often easy to correct. Hydrangeas are resilient plants and can recover quickly when their growing conditions improve. Take a close look at your own shrubs, consider whether any of these issues might apply, and make the adjustments they need. With a little attention, your garden could soon be filled with vibrant blooms that make all the effort worthwhile. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future tips for growing healthier, more beautiful plants. Feel free to leave a comment and share which of these mistakes you've encountered, or tell us your own secret for growing stunning hydrangeas. Until next time, happy gardening, and may your hydrangeas bloom brighter than ever.